Tax time doesn't have to be stressful. You want to know what it feels like to be stress-free? Call the professionals at SJC Financial Solutions. We can provide you with professional and experienced staff, electronic filing, individual and business tax returns. We provide bookkeeping, payroll, IRS collection representation. You can reach us at 800-542-1393, or you can log on to www.yourtaxremedy.com. That is yourtaxremedy.com. We are an authorized e-file provider, and we are IRS enrolled agents. Again, tax time doesn't have to be stressful. Know what it's like to be stress-free. Call SJC Financial Solutions. Mention this ad and get a 10% discount.
All right, folks, you know my name. You know what this is. But for you new people, I am the Ruthless Wonder, not A Ruthless Wonder. You are back on the Wrath of Ruthless. And I want to welcome you all inside the whirlwind. So, you may have noticed that we've kind of switched up formats. We don't seem to be every week anymore. That's for a lot of reasons. One, it takes a lot to get time to do the show. But also, I got a lot of things going on, a lot of which we don't talk about. I did want to come in, check in real quick with you guys. This is probably not going to get up to full length, but I did want to have just a brief chat. So, I had an interesting discussion. And it kind of got to not a heated point. I worked very hard to make sure I don't get distracted kind of by the emotion of having a conversation. Even stuff I'm passionate about, I try to pull it back quite a bit. But this particular conversation got, like I said, it got a little heated. And I don't want you to consider this a give no quarter. This was not a political discussion. I tend to be very dispassionate when it comes to political discussions, mostly because I just don't feel it's necessary. When I talk politics, I'm usually talking with somebody who has a very divergent viewpoint from mine, whether that's on the opposite end of the spectrum divergent, or whether it's on the same end of the spectrum and divergent. Because when it comes to the American and European democratic systems, I tend to be very moderate. But as people know, and we've talked about on the show, I am not a believer in democracy. And that's for a lot of reasons, which is better for another show. But no, this discussion was kind of focused in on not necessarily that Pepsi commercial that everybody's been talking about, but it was focused in on the cult of celebrity. So, the person I was talking with felt as though the issue with that ad was that it was Kendall Jenner taking the place of the black woman who actually inspired that shot. That the shot where she's handing the Pepsi to the officer is the same as the black woman who basically puts her hand on the National Guard weapon back in the 60s, and of course the young woman down in Baton Rouge in the more recent protests. And I said, yes, that is a problem with it. But really, if you kept the commercial the same, so keep the whole commercial the same, somebody comes up to the cops, does that, goes forward. If you did that with a regular person, it would still be a problem because it minimizes the point of these protests. Pepsi, in trying to be inoffensive, uh, comes off as extremely offensive. In this particular case, because they boil down the protest signs to things like join the conversation, love, and peace. And to somebody who's younger, seems that seems just minimizing, but I see it a bit differently because, as people might remember, Pepsi was one of the official sponsors for the Woodstock anniversaries, and they did their love and peace cans for that as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, no, I don't have those up. Mostly because, well, honestly, Pepsi might try to claim the video. But yeah, Pepsi put out a whole set of cans for the '90s Woodstocks. They had the '94 cans. I don't think they did '99 cans. I can't remember. But I know they did '94 cans. But excuse me, and '99 was where they had of course, the rioting that occurred. Interesting thought process on that. But anyway, the '94 cans had just a white person's hand on a guitar with two doves on the back of the Pepsi, and it just said Woodstock '94. Like you can, yeah, like people at the time can kind of remember those. That was the official Woodstock logo, and of course, like I said, Pepsi sponsored Woodstock '94, and that's kind of their MO. Like Pepsi is the brand that attaches itself to of the moment culture, and so I saw this as more of that. Not necessarily specifically wanting to disrespect the protest, but to do more of what Pepsi always does, which is to latch onto and attempt to take control of the youth culture that's going on at the time by doing stuff. Like, for instance, if you remember, for the longest time, Pepsi has been, a sponsor of the Super Bowl. And prior to every Super Bowl, they have always done a major commercial with a number of stars. Sometimes the ones that are going to perform at the Super Bowl, sometimes not. But Pepsi has always tried to latch on that youth culture. People, of course, mock the Britney Spears Pepsi commercials. At one point, Beyonce did some Pepsi commercials. Everybody in a youth group tends to do a Pepsi commercial. And yeah, there's the obvious person that I'm not bringing up just yet. But there's a point where Pepsi got Michael Jackson for their commercials. That was a big thing, because yeah, because Michael Jackson, of course, had at one point, done some Coca-Cola stuff early on, had left for Pepsi to be I want to say it was the Now Generation, or New Generation, that's what it was. It was New Generation ads. And if you recall back in those commercials, he did have a young Alfonso Ribeiro. Shout out to Carlton. But yeah, no, like Michael Jackson was a Pepsi endorser. And a lot of that was because Pepsi has always tried to keep whatever was the big young demographic as part of the thing. Coca-Cola's gone a lot with tradition, um, but Pepsi's tried to grasp on to be pop culture. So this was more of the same for me uh, for Pepsi. Of course, you guys can remember Michael Jordan used to do Coca-Cola commercials, but that's always been the thing. Like I I saw it in that fashion, and I saw it for a deeper issue than what this person was looking at. It's like, yes, that is one of the issues, but this is also a deeper. Pepsi has this culture issue, and that led us to this discussion of, well, it's a bigger deal because she's a celebrity. Yes and no. Um, I have remembered quite a few ads that did not include celebrities that were just as offensive. Um, if you remember, and this is, I want to say it was Urban Outfitters. Urban Outfitters would advertise kind of really offensive uh, shirt designs, and you know the commercials for certain stuff would just not be related to Urban Outfitters. It would be some wacky commercial with some crazy racial stereotype in it, and then they would just put out the commercial. It would just go on from there. And there were no celebrities in those ads. Of course, with celebrities, all kinds of things have tried to get passed off. Um, the old Brooke Shields ads where she was talking about nothing gets between her and her Calvins, essentially insinuating to the male population that she didn't wear underwear when she was wearing jeans, giving that sexualization. What you don't remember, of course, is that Brooke Shields at the time was a minor. She wasn't even 17 yet. She was 15 and 16 for most of those ads. But they would say, well, it's about her passion and desire to have these jeans, and it's like, yeah, you're saying that, but you're also insinuating that this, underaged, hot model that is, essentially the Lolita fantasy of many men out there, which, yeah, that shit's creepy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But you're essentially insinuating that uh, she's so sexual that she doesn't want anything worn between her naked body and these jeans, and you know that you're doing it. Celebrity is used to sell. There's nothing wrong with celebrity being used to sell. It can often be used in bad taste. I never liked the Fred Astaire vacuum commercials, and don't get me wrong, I don't actually remember what brand was Fred Astaire was selling with those. Let me look it up. I'm sure it's some crazy brand of vacuum. Oh yeah, it was Dirt Devil. Yeah, they used Dirt Devil to sell. Fred Astaire was selling Dirt Devil vacuums after he was dead by just like adding the vacuum cleaner to his dances. Uh, but that's the thing. Like there are things like that are in bad taste. Cheerios came out with uh, a tweet after Prince's death that was in bad taste. Um, Coors back in the day did a bunch of John Wayne spots. I don't think he was actually in those commercials, but like they did those. Um, I want to say it might have been Coke again. That did like Humphrey Bogart and Louis Armstrong and James Cagney. Um, and then there's stuff where like the person's been dead, but the brand continued to use them. Orville Redenbacher's popcorn did that. Wendy's did that for a little bit as well with Dave Thomas after he died. But yeah, like that happened. Not a lot, but fairly often, and they're in bad taste. Pepsi does sometimes do things in very bad taste. Uh, and, that's celebrity being used improperly. Um, but the reason celebrity is used is because you respond to it. Now, don't worry, this is not about to turn into some Hotep hour where I, pontificate about how your love of celebrities is stupid and, you deserve to be, shot for having an opinion. No, 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 no. That's not what's going on here. But what I am saying is celebrity has gotten out of its place. Think about for a second, and obviously you can't answer me because this isn't live, but think about it for a second of the famous people that you remember from your childhood. Now, you millennials listening that are far younger than me probably have a different set of celebrities, but and you 2000s babies are definitely in a different situation. But I want you all who are uh, yeah, that's former co-host Brittany bothering me on my cell phone in the middle of the show. But think about the celebrities that you remember, and don't think about celebrity like we talk about celebrity now, but think about the famous people that were larger than life to you when you were a kid. And I'm talking adults larger than life than you, other teens larger than life than you. If you're born after 90, that's a different thought process than if you were born in the 80s. If you were born in the late 90s and early 2000s, you have a different notoriety for people because some of the people that you remember only got famous on the internet. And they only got famous for reality TV. You 90s babies, you have a different definition because you're in a transitional period where you were growing up as celebrity culture was going through another major change. So, you fellow folks of my age range, I'm 1982. Shout out to the early 80s babies. But you have a different definition of famous because for you all, famous meant not only were you on TV or on the radio or in movies, but you were big enough to be talked about in magazines. Like some of you lived through the Coreys. Some of you remember getting, Teen Beat and those other teeny bopper magazines. Some of you remember crazes like the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. Some of you remember, crazes older than that, like New Kids on the Block and New Edition and Boys to Men. You remember those things. I can say those names, but you also remember one-hit wonders that were big as well. You remember Tone Loc and Young MC. You remember Aha's Take on Me. You remember Flock of Seagulls and Kajagoogoo. And you remember different kinds of celebrity. You remember that those people who were one-hit wonders were not the same level as your rock stars. You remember them differently than you remember Aerosmith and Guns N' Roses and Metallica. You have a different scope on people like Cuckoo Cal than you do on Jay-Z and Nas, and you think differently about the entire East Coast, West Coast beef between Tupac and Biggie. You can put those into context because you were there at the time. You remember the LA riots because it was either happening to you because you were in Los Angeles or you were watching the coverage on television. You remember Rodney King's trial and then the riots and then Reginald Denny's attackers trial. You remember all of these different things in a different context. And while those were moments and people you remember, they were famous, they were also not celebrities. But today, that would make them celebrities. You would keep track of what was going on with them. The way for you all, and again, this is not I'm not bagging on you for being, born later in life. That's just stupid. But the people that you remember as celebrity now get followed no matter what it was that made them famous for that moment. Because famous people weren't necessarily celebrities. Celebrities were rock stars, were movie stars, were television stars. You remember shows like Dynasty and Dallas. Those people were celebrities to you because they were written about. They were talked about away from everything they were doing. Like I told you, she's that that co-host. But you remember talking about those people separate from their job, separate from whatever made them famous. Their personal lives were up for discussion. You remember things like, Lifestyles of Rich and Famous with Robin Leach, and that's really kind of when you knew somebody truly made it, in the 80s and early 90s. And you remember in the mid 90s into the 2000s, you remember MTV Cribs, because for us that were 90s kids and 80s babies, that was the way you saw your celebrity, music and TV folks actually show off their wealth and know who was really rich and who wasn't. But you also remember things, funny things like Redman's doing the small house that he had with all his boys in it. You remember Wu-Tang's gigantic crib out on the West Coast. Like, you remember those things. Well, now that's different. Now we think of those things differently. And while Kendall Jenner, I think I might have called her Kylie for a second there, sorry about that. While Kendall Jenner is a problem in that commercial because of what it means to place her in place of the black woman who really made that moment famous, it is only part of the problem because we treat celebrity differently. Kendall Jenner would not be a celebrity in the 90s. Kendall Jenner would not be a celebrity in the 80s. She would be the kid of a celebrity. She would be the kid of a famous person. She would be associated with famous people. But even Kim Kardashian would not have been a celebrity in those earlier times. And that's the difference. That's what makes this a different situation. So, yes, you can blame Pepsi for this commercial in full, but it is not specifically Kendall Jenner that's the problem. It's the notion of using celebrity to take all of the actual context away from the point of what they are essentially trying to latch onto. They are trying to latch onto what these protests mean and say, we should be associated with it. We should be, something you remember. I want to thank all the people who have made, memes talking about, Pepsi ending discrimination, or, King Kuron, who I actually follow on a lot of different stuff. I loved him back when Vine was still popping. Made this whole skit of, what really would happen if you tried to give a cop a Pepsi, as he was in the middle of, arresting someone unwarrantedly. Yes, I'm lighting a cigar. This week's cigar is Chilean. I've never had a Chilean cigar. First time for everything. Love it. Nice flavor. Very dark. Some good earthy tones and whatnot. But anyway, back to this. So, one of the big things for me out of that conversation that we got into deeper of this whole, celebrity culture, and I was, talking about how celebrity can be useful. Without getting into the kind of relative silence we've gotten from Jesse Williams since his big speech, I really want to kind of talk real briefly with you guys. Like I said, this show's not going to go full length, but I just want to talk, just kind of briefly with you guys about this notion of celebrities who step out into the public sphere to say something important, but then retreat. So, I want to, before I get into this, applaud a sports athlete who has become a celebrity because of positive actions. And that's Colin Kaepernick. People said that Colin Kaepernick would stop this when it cost him money. And when they sat him down for doing his protest, his entirely peaceful, I I don't know how much more peaceful you can get than doing something silently that does not draw any attention to you until people start making a deal of it. Um, but Colin Kaepernick, they said he would stop when it affected him at work. And when they pulled him and benched him, he didn't stop. They said when it cost him money, it would stop. And Colin Kaepernick said, no, I think this has been too much of a distraction. Next season, if I'm playing, I won't be kneeling because I think the protest itself has accomplished what I wanted to do. And I think if people are now making it about me, and so I'm not going to do it any further. Smart move. Something that I think people need to do with certain kinds of protests. Things like that, I think, need to be kept in that sphere. When you've accomplished what you want to accomplish, you don't need to continue going. You can stop right there. And it's cost him getting signed. I understand why the Chiefs aren't signing him, because I feel like Alex Smith might be a little afraid of Colin Kaepernick and wouldn't want him on the same team. But these other teams, I feel like they have decided that the very idea of signing Colin Kaepernick is too costly, even as a backup, which is stupid. But he talked the talk and then walked the walk. Colin Kaepernick has donated to multiple causes, $50,000 to a number of children's charities, has donated his sneaker and a major part of his clothes collection to ones that would feed and clothe the homeless and hungry. Work with different organizations in Haiti that are still helping them doing rebuilding. A number of different local charities in San Francisco and the Bay Area, over into Oakland and things like that. Colin Kaepernick has been walking the walk. Colin Kaepernick has been out here really doing things. And I think he needs to be lauded and applauded for it. So I wanted to say that before I kind of get into this. Most celebrities, not all, most celebrities shouldn't be involved in political causes. And I don't mean that they shouldn't donate to things, they shouldn't have views. I'm perfectly fine with everybody having views. You all of the country have decided that everyone deserves free speech. Therefore, I'm fine with anyone having free speech. But most celebrities should not be involved publicly in political causes. And when I say political causes, I don't necessarily mean elected office. I mean in causes that have political implications. The cigar's having trouble getting lit. I may take back the nice things I said. Most of them shouldn't. And that's not because I think that they're stupid. That's not because I think that, they can be uninformed. It's not because I think that they should just, shut up and look pretty or shut up and do their job. Quite the opposite. I think they should be involved in causes, just not publicly in a lot of cases, because most celebrities are not in a position where they can get informed enough on a subject to handle the potential, I hate using clapback because that's just a weird nomenclature, but the backlash, the deeper questions, the follow-up to whatever that cause is. Now, what do I consider political? Okay. Starving children, not political. Veterans, not political. Generally, social causes that help disadvantaged groups, I don't believe are political. Until you get into things like, is Planned Parenthood an abortion clinic supporter, or is Planned Parenthood trying to provide low-cost health care to people that don't have it? That's a discussion for Give No Quarter, not a discussion for this show. But that's a more gray area, and that's something that, needs to be parsed when you're talking about it. What I'm talking about instead is the notion of political causes, like talking about the, issues in Syria, talking about various wars, both civil and both internalized conflict, political unrest, ideological differences, religious differences, and things of that nature. I'm talking about uh, things that can have election implications, if you will. Add that to the glossary. But that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about things that are issues that have a this side and this side to it. That you can pick a side and someone on the other side is going to respond to you. And yes, I know that the nature of a lot of things have become more political, but things that are innately good, Make-A-Wish Foundation is not political. You know, the Be a Star campaign that the WWE is doing has become political because of the actions of some of the people in the WWE, and I will save that for when I have some wrestling guys on, which will be coming up soon. May even get attached to this proper The Wrath of Ruthless. But that's what I'm talking about. Celebrities, for the most part, are too busy doing whatever is making them a celebrity to really be so informed to be not an expert, but a highly informed speaker on the subject. For instance, Blossom, Mayim Bialik. Most of you guys know her from Big Bang Theory these days, but I remember her from Blossom. Man, where's Jenna Von Oy? Anyway, she disappeared. Anyway, after the Parkers of all things. But she's a scientist. So when it comes to talking about science, I generally want to know what she thinks because she has the advanced degrees, she's put in the additional time, she keeps herself generally up to date on stuff. She has things I disagree with. For instance, her position on vaccinations and the baby birding thing, where she pre-chews the food that she then mouth-to-mouth feeds her kids. Like that's a thing where I disagree with her on, but reasonable people can disagree and it still be an informed conversation. And she's a scientist, so some of the stuff that she says, I tend to look at in a different light. Like, there might be some credit here. When, I listen to, certain people who are involved in various kinds of protest, that are involved in certain causes, I tend to give them more credit because of their activity. Because I know that with that activity, number one, comes risk, but also comes an understanding of what's really going on. You may have noticed that I haven't really had any Black Lives Matter folks, as far as like actively involved in Black Lives Matter. I haven't really had any political organizers on, even though I'm friends with some of them on various social media, even though I may talk to them fairly often. You may have noticed I haven't had them on, and a lot of that is because I don't want to put them in a position where they feel like I'm not informed enough to talk about the subject with them, or they feel like it's not helping the cause that they're going after. I have respect for what they are doing, and so I want them to be in the proper situation. I want me to be in the proper situation. I want to give them the best possible platform. And that's whether I disagree with them or not. There are, associates of mine, some cases actual friends of mine, who, are conservative, extremely conservative, and they have, particular causes that they're interested in, and I want to give them the respect necessary. One of the main reasons we did give no quarter originally with Bailey and with Kay Walker is because the two of them can take very reasonable positions and have reasonable discussion on any issue. The whole idea behind the show initially was to have two reasonable people who believe in the American system, and of course, myself, the usurping neo-monarchist. And yes, I've taken to calling it neo-monarchy instead of neo-feudalism or neo-imperialism. What it really comes down to is the notion that I don't believe that by having the systems the way that we have them across the world now will ever lend itself to singular human unity for the purposes of evolution and exploring the universe beyond ourselves. I think that at some point we will reach critical mass with politics and the nature of political culture, and that by doing so, we will essentially begin to regress. And so, yeah, I expect society at some point to make a choice and realize that a singular entity, as far as governance, is really the only way to move us forward. And for you pacifists out there, that's really the only way you're going to get what you want either. Anyway, but I tend to do those things in that fashion. I tend to tailor who comes on, tailor who I talk to, who stuff I retweet, who stuff I talk about in circles to those folks I think are informed on a subject. You may dislike Sean King, and certainly after some of the things that I've seen people say, there is quite a large contingent of you that dislike Sean King and what he has to say. But Sean King is very informed on the subject. And he's a journalist, so I tend to trust that he's going to do his research beforehand because he hasn't given me anything to say otherwise. I don't share stuff from The Love Life of an Asian Guy because I'm never certain he's done the research and isn't just ranting. Look, there's nothing wrong with having emotion and ranting. Certainly, you all who have read Words Don't Do It Justice over the years, who have listened to the show and some of the times where I get angry, you all know I can get passionate. I can get, out of this calm demeanor that I tend to bring to the show all the time. But part of that is, beforehand I've read up a bit, I've gotten myself to a point where I think I know what I'm talking about before I get going. And if I find something that corrects me later, then I correct myself here. Same thing there. There are actual proper celebrities I treat the same way. DL, who I think gets some things wrong. Certainly, his relationship advice, similar to Tyrese and Reverend Run, I don't necessarily agree with. And many times, I find it's a lot of I struggle to say tone policing women so much as taking too conservative a viewpoint in an era where everyone is trying to throw off labels. Now, I don't mean that in there are a million genders, there are 76 genders thing. I mean that in I don't think holding people to traditionalist notions of what relationships should be and how you get into them are the right kind of advice to be giving in a society that says, if that's what you want to do, do it, but most of us are going this way. And I say most of us because, listen, if you're still out, dating people through, your friends' recommendations, good on you. I love my friends, but they haven't recommended me a good blind date in 6 years. Yes, all of you, before you start. Was it me? I'm talking to every last one of you. Not one of you has recommended a good blind date in 6 years. Yes, 2011. And 2011, the person who recommended the last one was a good idea, I will agree. Yes, Danielle, that was a good idea. Didn't work out, but that was a good idea at the time. Love you for it. But beyond all that, that's a thing that you choose to do. Most of society is on multiple dating apps. Most of society meets people through DMs on Facebook and Twitter and other social media, Instagram and Snapchat. Most of society is moving that direction. There are traditionalists left. Many of them are older, but even the older generation, like I won't say who out of my friends and family, that's why I said friends and family, is over age 40 and has met people via some of the older folks' dating services. But those folks are out there. Shout out to them for finding love. But that's the thing, man. Like, that's what's happening. And to me, if you're going to say you're a relationship expert, then you need to take those things into account. You need to take into account that most women in our society are working the same hours as men are working, the same amount of days men are working, and doing the same jobs. Now, not every job, certainly. I'm not trying to get into a semantic argument about women doing coal mining like men do coal mining. I'm not getting into that argument. What I'm saying is women are out doing the same kinds of work, doing the same positions as men are doing. And the same way you need to respect a man's time, you need to respect a woman's time. And if you're going to be a relationship expert, you need to be broader than traditionalist notions of what relationships are. People are in open relationships and will tell you they're in open relationships. People are polyamorous and will tell you that they are polyamorous. People are openly in the BDSM culture, and that happens. And you, as an expert, quote unquote, to your own mind, need to know that stuff well enough to talk about it. But you don't. And that's what I talk about when I say most celebrities shouldn't have political decisions. Because relationships are a political matter now. There are a number of, and this was hilarious in the last election, a number of websites that popped up for only liberal or only conservative dating. There are a number of websites that popped up for very traditionalized dating versus extremely forward-thinking dating. There are a number of people who have changed their mind on that subject. But let's get to an easier thing than that. Something that's less abstract and more simplified. Jenny McCarthy needs to shut the hell up. And so does Jim Carrey on this subject. The idea of two celebrities who have no medical degrees, who do not study science or medicine for that matter, talking at length about medical research. And let's be clear. That's what they're talking about when they're talking about vaccinations causing autism. They are talking about medical research that has long been debunked by, in fact, the person who said it in the first place. Is another example of celebrities that shouldn't be talking about things that they're not informed enough about to even have an opinion. And I'm not saying have an opinion privately, I'm saying publicly. Jenny McCarthy and Jim Carrey lead people to anti-vaccination through anti-vaccination rhetoric. This is the same situation that you have with conspiracy theories. Everything from Bush let or caused 9/11 to happen, to Area 51 related stuff, to the idiots that think the world is flat, Shaq included. Look, Shaq was a transcendent basketball player. Like, easy for the Hall of Fame. But if I'm looking for scientific evidence to how Earth is currently floating in space, I ain't going to Shaquille O'Neal. The idea that he thinks because he drives on, quote, flat roads that the Earth is flat is ridiculous. And I can't believe I have to dignify us by talking about it. But he's not the only one. Obviously, Kyrie Irving came out with that, and he went to Duke, which is entirely stupid. Some of you guys remember B.O.B. said the same shit a while ago. Now, these are people who have taken international flights where they have had to fly to other countries, where they have literally been able to see the curvature of the Earth, because when you fly certain ways, you have to see the natural curvature when you're in the air, bro. Anyway, why do you think planes can take parabolic? Anyway, but it's things like that. And that's why I don't begrudge George Clooney supporting a political candidate. I think he should have been supporting Bernie Sanders, and very early, and should have been helping raise awareness and funds for him. I think some of those people that, were out there that were latecomers to Bernie Sanders should have been much earlier. But that's a separate discussion for a separate show. This idea that celebrities who are generally famous based on internet interaction, film, TV, music, reality television, radio in some cases, shout out to Charlamagne the God, wrestling, sports, any of those things, that they could be at such a high level in their arena, and you expect them to also be high level enough in their knowledge on a subject to be talking about it intelligently, is preposterous. And it begs the question of, do you really understand what someone's famous for? I am a big fan of AJ Styles. He's a wrestler. Wrestles for the WWE. Used to wrestle for a company that is now called Impact Wrestling. Used to be called Total Nonstop Action, TNA. But I'm not going to listen to AJ Styles' political opinions. I don't know what AJ Styles' political opinions are, because I purposely don't go looking for them. And I'm not telling you to not look for what your celebrities think on stuff, because that can help you determine things. But until I hear something about AJ that says, well, AJ hates gay people, or AJ, hates black people, or, AJ believes that women shouldn't work. Anytime when I hear something like that, then I will have an opinion on AJ Styles as a celebrity in a political sphere. But without that, I won't have that. Because most celebrities shouldn't be talking about these issues because they're not knowledgeable enough about them. Most celebrities should talk about, most celebrities should stay in their arena and give their analysis on that arena. And if they want to talk publicly, keep it non-political. This is not to say you shouldn't get politically involved as a celebrity. And that's what I want to end with here. I believe that more celebrities need to become involved with issues that require politically adverse statements and require them to take a position on things. Because it could make a difference. Because most of society respects celebrity. Most of it adores celebrity. The cult of personality is real. And because of that, they should get involved. But getting involved means being knowledgeable. Because you are helping no one by being uninformed and talking out of your ass. And that's what a lot of them do. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not even saying, more than maybe 60 to 70% of them are saying stupid shit. But there is too much information for you to be an expert on everything. So dial it in. Dial it back. And then get informed on something and talk about that. People pick pet projects all the time. Celebrities should be doing more of that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Next episode, like I said, we're going to be back to the full hour. Going to get some more conversations in. You folks seem to really like our conversations with some different folks, so I'm definitely going to do some more of those. But I wanted to get into the rest of this, let you guys know what's going on. Like I said, we are moving to, if you notice, a non-weekly schedule. And most of that's just, I don't have the ability to give you guys that just yet. Things are changing. Things are changing a lot for me, to be honest with you. But as those things change, that does affect my ability and time, and it keeps me from being able to give you a full weekly episode every week. So look out for some changes. Look out for more conversations. Look out for some more up-to-date news and whatnot. We're going to try and get Kay in because she's got some cool things going on. But for now, I am the Ruthless Wonder, not A Ruthless Wonder. You've been listening to the Wrath of Ruthless, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.